We're going to get this committee meeting started. This is a committee meeting to discuss a prospective new city flag. I'm Councilor Green. I'm joined by Councilor Peniagua, Councilor Schultz, and Councilor Majuk is here. So why don't we turn it over to ADAPT CNY, and you guys can introduce yourselves. If you want to introduce the committee members, feel free, and then take us through what's happened so far.
Sounds good. All right. Good afternoon, council and committee members, and also good afternoon, everyone here in council chambers today. So I will just first start by saying, so Eric Ennis, and for once, not here to talk about neighborhood and business development or economic development for a change, but really serving as president of ADAPT CNY and as part of our executive leadership team within ADAPT. And then here joined with me as well is Andrew Frazier. And I'm going to turn it over to Andrew relatively quickly, but just want to say, thank you for your time here. We're really looking forward to providing this overview and update, as well as really sharing finalists, semifinalists, basically the after a long process that we're going to go through in detail just in terms of how we've brought ourselves to this point, with really a topic that began first in 2019. I was reminiscing on back in 2019, we actually had a hearing and a committee meeting with members of the council. There's been some changeover with councilors since that time, but really talking about why do this, why pursue it, and why move forward. And so one of the things that we're really looking forward to is just showing all the progress that has been made by ADAPT CNY, but really as the facilitator for the Syracuse Flag Committee. So we have a number of folks in the audience here that were directly a part of this process, that were members of the committee, that put hours and hours into this process and helping come up with a really equitable, thoughtful, inclusive process to get us to where we are today. And then the last point I will make is that as I have learned, and the more that I've become involved in this process, is just how tight-knit of a flag community there really is. And technically the term is vexillology, which is the study of flags. And it is I promise you, the more you say it, it starts to roll off the tongue. But and there's a number of vexillologists in the room today that are really passionate about this topic. And so,
can you say that term one more time?
Vexillology is how you technically say it. Just don't ask me to spell it. And so I think with that being said, we've talked a lot about just the opportunity here and what this has the potential to do, and really is the first redesign of the city flag in more than 100 years. So with that being said, I'm going to just kind of briefly walk through just a couple different initial slides, and then I'll turn it over to Andrew to get us started. So just wanted to give some background into ADAPT CNY and who we are. So we are an entirely volunteer-based nonprofit. If you're ever familiar with formerly 40 Below, we evolved and it basically became ADAPT CNY and rebranded ourselves when we became a separate nonprofit. We've been involved in a number of different civic-based initiatives. We're broken into a series of task forces that basically focus on different topic areas in terms of volunteerism and involvement. A big one is public arts. So we've had a public arts task force that's really done a number of different murals in the community, sculptures, other pieces of public art. If you've ever been in Armory Square along the creek walk where the water dragon is that kind of meanders right through the creek walk, his name is Walt the Water Dragon. That was an ADAPT CNY project. When we did, this is actually a photo of the murals that were being painted on Water Street to commemorate the Erie Canal. Those were done by ADAPT CNY and our volunteers, and we've done everything from Earth Day cleanups in the community, which is a photo of us doing a cleanup in the Inner Harbor. And then most recently, we've worked very closely with city government as well here in Syracuse. We were directly a part of launching the city's bike share system, and then ultimately, which evolved going from Gotcha to then VO Ride, and with bikes and scooters that we have today. So that was a part of our transportation task force. Andrew was actually directly involved in that. It's a very major transportation enthusiast. So that's just a little bit of who we are. And this kind of crossed over a couple different task forces with us, both our civic engagement. We have a civic engagement component to everything we do, as well as just, from a public art perspective, we knew that this was a kind of an art topic as well in terms of redesigning the flag and engaging with artists. So just framing the initiative and kind of the reason why, and I referenced we met with the council previously back in 2019 when we first really began and thought about this process. But a flag represents a city and its people. You see in the photo here, we have the actual city seal. We have the city logo that's been used for really since about the 1980s. And you think about these symbols and really what they mean and how they represent a community. And so one of the things we'll talk about, and we have a few different slides that show the current city flag, and just really thinking about, what a representation of the Syracuse and the city and the community that we know today compared to maybe the last time that this redesign took place. And so the branding opportunities with this, a unifying symbol, thinking about the ways it's bringing the city and bringing the community together. We looked very closely at other communities, which we're going to talk about in the process that they've undertaken with these flags, a lot of lessons learned. And I think just the really, you're going to see that we've looked at other communities and talked to several other communities about how they did their flag redesign, which then led us to the process that we've pursued here. And then lastly, there was a very famous TED Talk that went viral and from 2015, and I know Councilor Green has seen this TED Talk and others, that specifically highlights really what is good flag design and poor flag design. And unfortunately, Syracuse's flag was actually called out in this specific TED Talk, and it was one of the things that we said, hey, here's an opportunity to really, how do you incorporate the elements of good flag design, which we'll also get into shortly. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew and kind of continue to walk us through where we are today.
All right. Thank you, councilors. Just, again, I'll echo what Eric had to say, which is thank you for having us here. Thank you for giving us opportunity to give an update of what we've done over the last, really probably 3 years if you include all the planning phases. One thing I do want to say just on this last slide, right, this is not a mistake, right? If you Google Syracuse flag now, those are the kind of things that show up. And so to fix that is one of the big important parts of this, this committee, because we don't want, obviously Syracuse University is here, but let's build something that's a branding for the city itself and for the people of the city, not just the city government, right? Nobody here is trying to change the seal. We think it's very important. It's a great seal for what it's used for, which is, hey, it's up close, it's on paper, it's, all over City Hall. But a good flag is something that could be seen waving in the wind at a distance, and you just would know right away, like, hey, that's a Syracuse City flag. I do want to take a quick opportunity now for any of the committee members who are in the audience, if they'd like to just stand up and kind of wave, introduce yourself very quickly, and then, because I want to thank them, because what ADAPT CNY has done is just kind of been a shepherd of this process, right? We have not been directly involved from, making decisions. It's been more of like taking the will of these, 14, 15 people and getting them together in a room and then bringing them to some decisions. So I'd like to throw that first, like a round of applause for them, please. But then give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So whatever order you guys would like.
Sure. Joel Winkleman, city resident, and I think it was actually me in 2019 that but this is great. I'm so excited because it was 2019. I was in the same room giving a similar presentation, but we didn't have any finalists, so I'm so excited.
I'm Wynn Watson. I am a resident of the city. I am also a librarian at Syracuse University and avid collector of flags for 34 years now.
Brad Fates, city resident. It's been very long. Just a mind to have the city have a logo, some representative. And that's, again, not the seal on that sheet.
Bridget Dunn, city resident, also mascot, also with the university. I'm excited to be part of this. Sarah Sy, lifelong city resident, graduate of Fowler, went to USF, OCC.
Go Fowler.
I'm also a local business owner and very heavily involved in the arts. I'm co-owner of Flowers Armory downtown Syracuse, as well as candles, it's my own business. So this has been a passion project for me since the beginning.
Owen Hunter, downtown city resident, moved here from Texas to go to ESF and
I'm Michelle Fuller, city resident downtown for a number of years, and I live on the east side. Also a project architect at community, so from a design standpoint, that's kind of my everyday thing. So then turn that into design and design process is very exciting.
Neil Paulus, city resident, Onondaga Nation member, Hill Plan, and then we're going to go up on the nation and we're going to see that.
Awesome. So I didn't miss anybody, right? Okay, good. I'm happy you guys all sat together. That's good. So yeah, again, just a huge thank you to them. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge them before we got going. So as Eric said, I'll try and keep things pretty brief. But if you see right here, this pamphlet, "Good Flag, Bad Flag," that's was created by Ted Kay from the North American Vexillological Association. I also been practicing that word. It really just lists 5 basic principles for good flag design. That's keep it simple, use meaningful symbolism, use 2 to 3 basic colors from the standard color set, no lettering or seals, wink wink, that's kind of what ours is, and then also be distinctive or be related. And so what I've been really excited also about this process is to have Ted involved, and I gave a similar presentation to this to NAVA a few months ago, and they were able to offer their feedback, and all they asked is that we offer our feedback when the process is all done, because they're very excited about having other communities change their flags as well to make them good designs. So I'm just going to give you a pretty quick overview of just some examples, and maybe you'll understand like what some of the background of why we were trying to do this process. Keep it simple, right? So you see kind of a simple flag of the Republic of Congo, but then you look at West Virginia, and there's a lot going on there. From a distance, you can't even tell what that is, right? All of you sitting in this room, you don't want that. Another thing, Alaska, and then an older flag of Tunisia. Use meaningful symbolism. Really cool, actually, in this book, the flag of the Haudenosaunee shows up as an excellent flag, and so we have that right here, and so that was kind of a really cool part of this process that we had. And then so some other things that have symbolism but might not be meaningful. The Organization of American States is actually a flag of like 34 flags, so that's it's important but not really symbolic. 2 to 3 basic colors. You can see, right, Amsterdam has been a flag for a long time of that city, and then the Chinese Admiral flag, there's several different colors going on in there. And then New Mexico is a good example there of some simple colors. Virginia has a lot of unique colors on their flag, and again, some of these flags break multiple rules where you can't really see that at a distance, like what's going on there. No lettering or seals. Hey, oops, there we are. Look, check it out. There's our big seal in the middle of the bed sheet. So again, just a couple examples of look at that Laura Scher over there. That's tough, but and then be distinctive or be related, right? So this is like the flag of Indonesia is like the flag of Poland, and they don't really have a relationship to that. So if you're going to be related, let's have a reason for it. So obviously, I hope everyone in this room is familiar with the current flag. Sometimes you give this presentation and not everyone. I mean, I think the committee can second this, is that, right? Is that everybody you talk to, they're like, oh wow, Syracuse has a flag? I had no idea, right? I think it's a huge thing. And so using this as an opportunity as well to like reach out and brand and say like, hey, this is our flag, this is the people's flag, we're really excited about this. It was designed also by a contest in 1915 with a couple small changes over the last century or so. And it illustrates a really important part of the city's industrial legacy, right? I mean, the Erie Canal is there, the salt sheds are there. Nobody wants to do away with that, but we don't feel that the good principles of good flag design don't feel that belongs on the city's flag. There's ways that can be depicted less literally than just an image on the actual flag itself. So right, there's a zoomed-in version of it. What are some things that get brought up routinely that this makes this flag have a couple issues? There's a white and blue field that doesn't lack any specific meaning that's well known. It's illegible text at a distance, excuse me, right? So like can you barely see that says Central City of Syracuse, 1848? If you're looking up close, you can, but if it's flying at a distance, you can't. And then right. Basic, right? It's a seal. It has a seal with hard to decipher or some dated imagery.
There's also like 9 different colors.
Yeah, if you want to go through all of the things. Go ahead, Counselor.
One just little context I'll add. So in 1915, the mayor was Lewis Will. His great-grandson is Eric Will, who lives in Sedgwick still. And I was like, oh, did you know like your great-grandfather flag? He's like, no, I had no idea. But It looks like a bad flag. So it's not like there's descendants here that are nostalgic for this flag. Even his great-grandson's like, it's a pretty ugly flag. So
that is great to know. Thank you, Counselor. I think that sort of mirrors, right, the message of this flag is that we have this and it's not necessarily well known in the community, so hopefully this can change that, and then maybe whoever the designer is, their great-great-grandchild would be like, yes, like this is an important part of my history. 100 years long, we're long gone. So Eric gave a pretty brief overview of this already, so I'm going to kind of zoom through it. But we engaged this process kind of in late 2019, early 2020. We had our first meeting in January 2020. We had one scheduled on the books, March 2020, and you guys know what happened next. I don't need to behoove this point. We took about a year or so off. And we said, okay, time for a relaunch for this project. We kind of felt like we had the capacity to pick it up where it left off. So we thought of this project in 3 different phases. And again, we looked at what some other communities are doing, notably Tulsa, Oklahoma, which just recently did a redesign of its flag, to kind of come up with an idea of how we want to make sure that the message is out there and that people are able to give some feedback. So like an input phase, a submission phase, and a selection phase. So we relaunched the project website last February 22, and that was kind of spoke with some council members. It was some city administration members, just to make sure that we were operating kind of within something they'd at least be interested in, and not just kind of a rogue group, right? A vigilante flag committee. So just wanted to be in the clear a little bit with that. So what ADAPT kind of did, and again, as mentioning, is like saying this role of sort of shepherd of the process, is open up applications to join the Syracuse Flag Committee. It was high interest. We have a lot of feedback. All the people in this room, were the result of a series of interviews. Kind of making sure that they were really committed to it, and knowing that they wouldn't be able to design a flag of their own if they were on it. So we selected about 15 or so people total, and we wanted to make sure that from people all ages, all across Syracuse, that was really important in the process. So this is, again, the official committee members, some of which, not all here today, stood up and spoke, plus ADAPT CNY people, myself and Eric, a few others, a couple other, city administrative people, just to kind of, keep an eye on things, but, non-voting members. So we've met 10 times so far, starting in June 2022 with the kickoff, so we're reaching almost a full year, which is like pretty aggressive, but I think a good timeline to mirror, right? So, to get all this together in a year was pretty cool. So the committee was really integral in developing guidelines for submissions, right? So how do you want to have the community submit flags to you for designs? So came up with a fact sheet, which kind of laid things out very simply of like, this is what we're looking for. Took a lot from the good flag, bad flag. Wanted to have an online component and a paper component available at other places, and I'll get into that in a couple slides, but basically giving people a lot of different options to reach as many people as possible. So there's, again, just a little overview of the paper flyer that went out to several different businesses, was available at all the city branches of the libraries, at the community centers. This kind of, again, we can't read it from here, but an overview of the project up top, the 5 principles of good flag design are there, and then, you can submit your design via paper if you have this form, or you scan the QR code, you can do it all online, kind of included some other information. And just about what the flag means to you, what's your connection to Syracuse, and what sort of symbolism were you looking for, and any other notes. And yeah, those 5, right, obviously from good flag, bad flag. So that all led up to a submission phase that started in November. We got some good media coverage about it. We did a couple TV appearances, radio appearances, had a couple informationsyracuse.com, so other local outlets. Conducted outreach with Syracuse City School District because we thought this would be a really good opportunity to get the students involved. Right, this is a classic like civic engagement project. Like, hey, here's your city, let's design a flag. So we spoke with the the director, like the art administration, got that out there. We held 2 design workshops in January. That was to sort of publicize the project at the neighborhood level. So one was at the Northeast Community Center, one was at the Southwest Community Center. Gave kind of a similar version of this PowerPoint and let people draw flags and design flags there. We also had a table at the Lunar New Year celebration, which was kind of really important to get involved with our New American community. We were very excited about that. And then the submission window closed in February after 12 total weeks of submissions. And again, this is like this fact sheet that we provided to kind of like answer like the frequently asked questions, right? Like, why are we doing this? Don't we already have a flag? What's going on? So I kind of just gave a brief overview of the community engagement there, but there's kind of some photos from our Instagram. We've been active on that. We have our website. We've had some communications coming out from the mayor's office. Been a huge partnership with Syracuse History, that Instagram account with David Haas. He's been, he's got a great following, and he's been able to kind of feature our story on there. So we're really thankful for that. That's like a good part of outreach. And like I mentioned, there's a couple of photos from our community outreach sessions and promotion with the school district teachers. We did get some submissions in from kids, mailed in from art teachers, so that was really cool. And they were also available at City Hall Commons. I didn't mention that. Sorry. Our flyers.
I'll just briefly add, I mean, truly, when it came time for the submissions, I mean, it was exciting to see. We were receiving them by email. We were receiving them by people dropping off physical packets. We received things physically in the mail. So I think the goal and the intent is that we wanted this to be as accessible as possible. We also then were communicating with the library so that if someone didn't have their own personal computer, they could go to the library and the library could assist them with submitting. So I think the intent was whatever your accessibility was from a technology standpoint, or if it was just you wanted to draw and submit a flag physically, we made sure that opportunity was there for city residents.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. That was a very important part. You know, we had markers and paper and everything available at these community meetings, available at the Lunar New Year celebration. You know, I had a kid, maybe he's like 5 years old, just draw something, which is like really cool. You know, we end up still showing it to the committee, but I think it sparks like an opportunity to really get involved and sort of say like, hey, you know, this is what Syracuse means to me. So selection phase, right? We're here. It was a long time coming to get to this. So we really kind of went through this in 2 phases, sort of at the flag committee. We've met several times, 6 times or so, just to go over. We had close to 300 submissions. You know, majority from Syracuse in New York State, but also all over the country. Some people from other parts of the world. You know, I said we shared this information out through NAVA, so you get vexillologists that are just really excited about flags and have designed flags kind of for cities all over the place. So, you know, they sent some in, which was pretty cool. You know, several rounds of review of the submissions. I will get to that in the next slide. You know, our goal was to have 3 to 5 finalists or semifinalists in May 2023. All right, good. Meeting your your key performance indicators. That's awesome. Right, so we'll have a public review of the finalists, and then we're working hopefully to have some physical flags printed with an opportunity to be flown in Clinton Square. That could bring the artists there, kind of give again some more outreach to the community, and you know, the finalists win a small cash prize. So, just a quick overview of how the committee went through and selected our semifinalists here today. Again, the first step was 300. It's a lot. Does the design basically follow or attempt to adhere to the 5 principles of good flag design? We had some incredible pieces of artwork that were like watercolor, handmade, like very nice, that are great art but just don't really fit what you might be looking for in a flag. So we really kind of reached all across the media of potential submissions. So if the design at least attempted to adhere to it and moved on to the next round. So that was a pretty kind of quick, did you understand the assignment sort of part, right? And then we, with about 150 or so that we had remaining, we had a bunch of flag primaries. They were all randomized into groups of 20 each. The committee members ranked each of those flags out of those primaries, and then also if they wanted to, could select a champion, their favorite of the primaries, so that they could bring another one to the table if they if one that they really liked didn't get a lot of votes from the other committee members, they could talk about it and say, hey, this is my champion, this is why I wanted it. So what that resulted in was about 40 flags from that 150 that were the top votes of the primaries, and then also some of those champions that some of the committee members came to and said, this is why I like this is why I feel this way. Sometimes they were able to sway their counterparts, sometimes they were not, but we wanted to have an opportunity to do that. So from those 40 or so, the committee selected down to 15, and each of these, had several meetings and discussions, several hours each. And then our next steps were to get down from 15 to 6, and then 6 to the 4 that are here today. So it's really, I would like to say I'm very happy that all 300 flags really got a look at, from the one that the 5-year-old drew and handed to me to ones that have been submitted electronically, and that of those a very good portion of them had extensive review. So this was not no, it's so we're really happy with the amount of time the committee was able to put in to go through all of this. So a single finalist will be presented back to the whole council in early June. I think you guys have a study session on Flag Day, June 14th, so that's super exciting. And maybe we planned it that way, maybe we didn't. And that you will also have a vote that will be in front of you, will either be up to you to either keep the current flag, or you will have the recommended flag in front of you to make a decision on. And so with that, I think, this is important too. So the really cool and important part of this process is that it will be licensed under Creative Commons 0, which means you can do whatever you want with the flag if you are, artistically inclined or not, right? So something we saw in Tulsa, you see it on beer cans. Like, this was super popular in a local brewery. You see just people have it, in their own pillows, in their own home. Chicago's flag is like super popular. Everybody always talks about big flags as Chicago and Washington D.C. You see in D.C. you see the flag designs like even on the utility covers. Chicago, you just Google like Chicago flag tattoos. They're everywhere. Obviously they're very passionate about their city. So being able to do this as well with whatever the recommended design is and having it be Creative Commons 0 was super important because we want people to make the flag their own as well, right? So.
Just to add to that is I think as we talked about, a lot of people are unfamiliar with the current Syracuse flag, and I think a big reason why is like people see our flag and it's just representative of city government, or it's just, and I think in this case, this is intended to represent the city and the community as a whole. It opens up a whole range of opportunities to really be able to use this, but also the visibility, imagining murals, in the city, painted with whatever the new flag is. So hopefully the visibility and people will become much more familiar with what Syracuse's new flag is, if that's the way we proceed.
Excellent point, Eric. Yes, thank you. And so with that is everything for the presentation here. Be happy to take your questions now on the process, and then maybe we can do a reveal of the 4 semifinalists, unless you have a different kind of order of operations.
No, so I'll just jump in a little bit about uses. So like one of my friends from college is from D.C., and they have a great flag. And at his wedding, there was a large piece of wood that was the city flag of D.C., and that was the guest book that everyone that they love signs the city flag. And people in Syracuse love Syracuse, but we don't have a physical way to express that. And so that's why I'm just so grateful for all of the work that you guys have done, because other than wearing orange, we don't have a way to do that. So just really grateful for that.
That's, Counselor, I totally thank you, because that's how I feel when you Google Syracuse flag or something, and something orange comes up, and you want to have something that is meaningful to you, that you would use it as like a wedding ceremony or something.
Quick question: you said you're down to 4, and you were going to get them made into flags and fly them in Clinton Square.
Yes.
And are you getting feedback from the community on them? Are they going to be voting, or
yes?
What's the plan to get to one?
Right.
Ultimately.
Yes. So basically after this meeting, probably within a couple hours afterwards, live on our website, syracuseflag.com, we will have an opportunity for the public to provide feedback. Each of the artists will have like their own sub-page on our website to kind of give a little bit more information about their flag, why they've chosen the symbols they've chosen. Obviously, flags can mean different things to different people. So, what they thought, you might be finding other additional kind of important meanings in that too. So we think it's like important to bring that to the table. And then so we will have that portion open until June 6th. So it'll be 3 weeks. And then that will give us kind of a week to tabulate everything and then come back to you on the 14th.
So first of all, let me extend my appreciation and thank you to everyone that has put time into to bring us to this point, right? Because I can't imagine going through 300 flags. There's so many colors you could use to create 300 flags, and to be able to go through and select, and to be at this point of 4, I want to thank all of you for really putting the time in. Another point I want to make is obviously 1915 and 2023, obviously it's a different life, was a different life, and it's a different life today as well, with so many demographics today in our city, and that make it such a beautiful city to live in. Now, my question as I look at these names of people who went through the design and made the selection, as we know, this city is comprised of Black Americans, Sub-Saharan African, Asian, European, you name it. We got everyone in this community, right? Now, as we take pride, as flag is such a pride thing, right? Did we make sure that every one of them, at least, not every one of them, at least there was a good representation in that, because when you look at, I saw Ghanaian flag up there, and it's one of the beautiful flags.
Yeah,
right.
It's right. It's in the book.
Right. Did we make sure that those were included? I see Tai Shaw here. I see a name that looked like an African name, but I don't know. Did we make sure that those flavors were added into that? And what was the selection process in getting those people?
Yeah, I'd like to say that Tai Shaw was just a really huge advocate for making sure that our New American community had a voice in this process, and so he was, very strong about, and which was very helpful for the committee as well, to make sure we're going to some of these other events that are big with the New American community. He helped us out with the Lunar New Year celebration. He's given a few other places that he thinks we should go to hand out these feedback forms over the next month or so. So we've really leaned on him, honestly, a lot, and he's been a really great resource. So that, I think, was important. Again, part of the process, because he always likes to say it's like, there. I don't remember the number, but the number of languages that are spoken in Syracuse, right? It's just like we want something that is representative of everyone, and so it's a flag for everyone, right?
Counselor, I think that was you, to your credit, Ty was your recommendation to put on there, and I think from talking to the committee, that was a huge help.
Yeah, he was fantastic, and so really a great advocate all the way along the way. So I'm really happy we had him involved.
Yeah. Just to speak a little bit more to the committee, and just really the commitment that a lot of the members in the audience today, and then for the ones who aren't here, it was a wide spectrum of representing Syracuse. I'll start with age. We had people from their early 20s to their 70s. We had from a socioeconomic background, a racial background. We had the majority, the strong majority, are city residents, and you kind of heard as they were going around. We had some who may live outside the city, but one example, someone who's not here but on the committee, was alive and lived an experience when the 15th Ward was demolished as part of I-81, lived in the neighborhood, lived in the South Side. They now live outside of the city but still own a home and reside in, they own a home in Syracuse, they reside just outside of city limits, but the lived experiences, and I think that a lot of the backgrounds and perspectives people were bringing to our discussions, we wanted to make sure it was representative of, just to your point, Syracuse has changed a lot since 1915, and we wanted to make sure there were the voices, the individuals in the room to be part of that. When we were doing the process, ultimately we put out an open call. We wanted to make sure there were people who were interested in this process. We wanted to make sure we cast a wide net. It was a lot of people who really are passionate about flag design, and as I said in the beginning, I have learned how deep the community roots are for Syracuse who really love this process. There were people that we wanted to make sure we had diverse representation. Not every single person that expressed interest and directly became a part of the committee, but we wanted to make sure there was the ability to put in the time commitment that we needed to get through a process of 300 down to 4. And then we also wanted to make sure, I'm also very proud to say, is that there's representation from every single council district as part of this committee as well. And so we wanted to make sure that it was across the city and not just tailored to particular neighborhoods or just because a certain population heard about this competition. So we worked really hard at that. I think this is such a diverse city that this was I think the committee that we really tried to comprise is representative of the city and the community we have today.
Yeah, and that's great. I see Brad here from my district, so this is great. Right? This is great. And I'll say this and then I'll stop. When I travel outside of Syracuse, I make an effort to make sure I'm wearing something Syracuse. When people see us, like, where are you from? I'm from Syracuse. It would be nice, as we know, Syracusan like to get into good trouble, to wear their pride wherever you go, and having something like that, I would not mind wearing a T-shirt that represents us, other than just our colleges. I mean, I love our colleges, but this community is unique, and there should be something that really portray that uniqueness and getting into good trouble. This is good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, I totally agree. So I'm happy we're together on the same page, and I think there's a lot of also Syracusans here, but Syracusans abroad, across the country, across the world, and I think they'd love to have that opportunity to show wherever they're living now. And like, what's that? It's like, oh, it's the flag of Syracuse, and kind of building that up. So, just again, totally along the same lines. Agree. So great. So
process as we go from 4 to 1. first of all, how will people vote? How will they know about it? How will they go from there?
Yeah. Okay. So great. Thank you, Counselor. On our website, live after this, if you go to syracuseflag.com/feedback, there's going to be a Google form embedded into the website. It's going to ask for an email address and also for your zip code, because we want to make sure that this is city residents making these comments and giving us feedback. What it will then do is then it will give you an opportunity to rank all 4 flags, all 4 semifinalists, kind of like, hey, rank your first choice of 1 and rank your least favorite of the semifinalists 4. It's also just a good opportunity to kind of maybe get people familiar with ranked voting systems, right, which are kind of being talked about a little bit right now. But it also, it allows the public to kind of maybe come together with a flag that might not necessarily, if there's a flag that's a lot of people's second favorite flag, right? It's almost like a consensus pick might be better than just a single, one-on-one vote that might happen. So what will also happen is after you fill out that form, you will get also an additional email that will come to your inbox. We'll ask you to verify your email address, and so that way we can ensure that only one person is getting 1 vote to the best of our ability. We are a volunteer organization, so we're doing this without proprietary software or survey instruments. We think that this will be the best chance to know that it's coming from like a legitimate email address and not just one you made up, 123@google.com, because you won't be able to receive those emails. And then we can keep track of when those are coming in to kind of see any suspicious activity. What obviously that does not account for is for people that might not have robust internet access or email addresses, and we think that is where we will do some additional community feedback. I mentioned a few things that Ty talked about, some community events where we can go and be present and say like, hey, here's a form, just fill it out now, we'll take it. Obviously we can verify that you're a real human being and not a bot filling this out for us. We'd like to have a couple of locations at libraries a few times over the next month or so. Salt City Market was brought up as another great opportunity to kind of put up a table and let people ask questions. So definitely really trying to weigh the benefits of, we want as many people to look at these flags and rank them as possible, but also, making sure that it's all legitimate and a single vote kind of thing. So
you'll have QR codes, all of these dependencies so that they can do it right there.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think the one thing I would just say, our boss are the people, right? And so that's who fire us if we don't do a good job. And so I would say definitely as you do the outreach, transparency about like how the voting works, I think is going to be really important. And then I also think making sure whether you step it down from 4 to 2 and then do another vote, or whether you just take the number 1 voter. I think I'm just playing this out, and I think a scenario where the community says they want flag B and the committee recommends flag C, I love my colleagues, it would be chaotic and we wouldn't agree how to do it. So I think making sure whatever flag is chosen is like the clear choice from the community is the smoothest way to go about setting up the process. So
I don't know if this is possible, but if you can, as part of the vision, work with languages so that everybody understands what's going on and be able to vote, maybe the general information. That's a great input, Counselor. I think something we should do is at least use the language translation services available to us, right? Languages spoken here, but there's like 5 that are the most spoken. So maybe, you can start there.
Yeah, I know there are a few services that allow us also to like translate a web page into, so that I will work with that certainly.
You need to be careful with that Google Translate.
Yes. we had a very long conversation amongst the committee, right, acknowledging that there are several different languages in our community, but the inability to hire somebody who's trained at this translation and the cost and what we have as a volunteer organization versus wanting to make sure that the message is spread to as much of the community as possible, as many language groups as possible. And that was a very difficult kind of bridge to tread.
That's when you keep it general, so you don't get into trouble and just throw it out.
I want to give another recommendation too, because I don't know in the group how many Gen Zs were in there, but it probably, as the time come, to also extend that into high schools so that they can also vote. because they may be able to give us a different perspective. I'm a millennial.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
That's great feedback. Yeah.
Right. Take it to high schools
And I would just add, I mean, because of the timeline and the fact that Syracuse City Schools will not have let out yet, I think we built a good relationship with the central administration and been in touch with them and their fine arts division directly. A lot of the art teachers, there was over 50 teachers we were promoting this information to at the time of the competition. Now being able to circle back and really encouraging their students to vote, and I feel like hopefully as the school year starts to wind down, they'll have, this could be hopefully a great educational element, because that was the other thing, is imagining students in the school district who didn't even know there was a flag, and this is an opportunity to really educate them on that process and what redesigning a flag looks like. So for us, it's a good takeaway to go circle back with the district and make sure those teachers and those students can directly weigh in and also rank their preferences.
Okay.
And Councilor Green, I just want to make sure that, I know we moved on a little bit, but I definitely hear your point. I want to make sure that the committee understands the importance of making sure that whatever one is most beloved by the community at large as part of this process is the one that they would recommend. So
I just want to thank our colleague Michael Green for really working hard to help us on the council bring this to this point. Thank you, Mike. This is great.
Well, I didn't, these guys did the work, but I had my idea, so thank you for doing the work.
So, thank you.
great. All right, and with that, should we have our big moment here? Okay, great.
And as we're doing that, so we're gonna pull off and kind of unveil officially, as we said as part of the presentation. There's 4 total finalists. One of the things that we don't have, but it will be on the website. So what we're going to do is promote the information. We know the media will be covering this as well. There are very intentional symbols, symbolism, the colors that they used. All of that was very thoughtful, and there was a very intentional approach. And there's a reason why they got recommended by the committee as the 4 semifinalists. So what I would say is you'll see it visually, but just what'll be really interesting and fun, and I highly recommend, is actually read the background on why the artist designed it, and then some of the feedback on why the committee advanced it. So, Andrew, without further ado.
We have a drum roll?
Yeah.
Basically, what you're going to do is some post-it notes and some less dramatic than I do.
Hey, make sure
Maybe I'll go.
Some serious sticky notes there.
You know, like you can have a big moment and you just like Aaron with the fireballing free throws. You know?
Oh, no.
So, okay, well. This is the Unity flag. This is the first light flag. That is the evening tree. And here we have the grain of glory.
We don't have them immediately right now, but yeah. So as I mentioned, there is a detailed description as to each one of these designs. You're going to be able to really get a feel for what the artist was thinking of and what it represents when they submitted this, and then the background as to why the council or the committee ultimately chose to advance it to the semifinal stage. So with flexibility, well, one of the things that we wanted to get a feel of is kind of what the reaction is from the community based on those designs and those colors. And so what we really want to try to do is respect the inspiration of the artist. And so one of the things that we've also said is that we're leaving a comment section open for each one of these. So as you're voting and as you're casting your ranking, giving us feedback or thoughts, we're able to then go back to the committee and take all that into consideration too as we move towards June when the final submission is made to the council. So,
Yeah, and just along those lines, a really cool part of this process was you're reading what the artist description of the flag is, and the committee members are like, well, I saw that, but I also saw this. And like, to me, this means this. And so like, that was just, again, a small subset of Syracuse and the Syracusans. So having that kind of opportunity to put that into us as part of this feedback process, and so that we can find out like, hey, what are other people seeing? So like, we're really excited about that as well.
Did people maybe couldn't hear, but there's like a name for each of them? Do you want to like
Project? Oh yeah, I don't need the microphone. Yeah, because okay, I got you. Okay, so on the furthest left, this one is the Grain of Glory. The one in the middle is the Evening Tree. The third, second from the right, the third one there, that is the First Light flag, and then the furthest one to the right is the Unity flag.
Okay.
So as we said, between beginning this afternoon, the process, the ability to go and rank will be continuing through June 6th. So 3 weeks to be able to promote this. We want to make sure that we're getting as much participation as possible from here within the city. And we've got our committee, the flag committee have been the ambassadors of really helping spread the word. And then also sharing this as widely as we can with Syracuse City School District or city workforce or just people in this community to make sure they're aware that we're looking for feedback and we want to bring
community
ultimately.
Centers is always a great place to
Absolutely,
do
yeah.
this with,
Yep.
because they have a lot of people in their mailing lists.
Yeah, the community centers are great, and even like going to, I think it was the Southwest Community Center for our session. We had people that were there for something totally different. Like, hey, what's going on over here? Exactly. Oh, you guys have cookies? Oh, let's just go over here for something. So if you feed them, they will come. It's great. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Eric. So.
Okay. Excellent. Great job.
And and to go along with Eric's last point, if any of you or anybody else in the community has any ideas for either community meetings or community events that you think this would be a good idea for us to be present at or to provide some of those feedback forms, email flag@adaptcny.org, and we'll monitor that and check it out. So.
We'll end up emailing Eric probably, and then.
All right, it's flag@adaptcny.com. Of course, I messed that up.
Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's awesome.
Oh, no, it is a org. I had it up there right the first time. I messed that up.
What's that? Oh yeah,
it is a org. I had that correct.